and he said, the nurses help me. They give me massages when I've got pain. And I thought to myself, he's not only touching me, but he's talking about massages. Is he coming on to me? I was glad to get back to Germany. When I returned to the novitiate, my brothers all asked me, what was it like, Brother Christopher, being with Father Maciel? And I said, oh, it's a great honor. He told me I'll be a strong legionary. According to the vows, I could not have criticized him. But in the back of my head, I knew I was lying. When I was ordained to the priesthood in 1994, the whole family came down to Mexico City.
Christopher Peter Kunze.
It was the 50th anniversary of Father Maciel's ordination to the priesthood.
Padre Marcial Maciel, fundador y director general de los Legionarios de Cristo.
Maciel had become one of the greatest fundraisers in church history. A builder of seminaries, universities, and prep schools in Europe, Latin America, and the United States. 21 Legion prep schools in America alone, where students were taught that Maciel was a living saint. In Rome, a city where saints are venerated in great churches, Maciel ordered his tomb built in the Guadalupe Basilica. Regnum Christi, the lay group, claims to have 60,000 members worldwide.
Ahora han pasado 50 años.
There is a special branch for women. Some of them live as if they were nuns in small communities, governed by superiors.
Our consecration begins on the day that we take our promises of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
It was very common that the siblings of legionary priests would be the target of visits and letters by members of Renner Christi and legionary priests. And so for years, my sister Elizabeth would receive visits and telephone calls to invite her to retreats. And when I was ordained to the priesthood, she decided to enter Renner Christi. She must feel very alone.
My daughter Elizabeth was working at Neiman Marcus in management, and she came home from the ordination, and we talked, and she said, you know, Mother, I really need more meaning and substance to my life, thinking what Chris is doing with his and what these young women are doing. And she said, this is for me. But she was 29 years old, and we trusted her judgment.
Before you were born, I consecrated you. I set you as a light to the nations.
From the earliest days of the Church, women have been called to...
Regnum Christi has a distribution network of videos, newsletters, and websites to attract new members.
The consecrated women of Regnum Christi.
She was in Rhode Island then. I remember I fussed at Elizabeth, you're never home. Why can't you ever come home? Because they can come home once every 7 years. And I said, this is ridiculous. She used to be such a thinker. But Regnum Christi has kind of taken the thinking process, put it over here, and they tell her what to do, and she does it. And that disturbs me a great deal, because I think she is being used as a pawn. She's always raising money. And the money that they raise gives them more power. You know, I think, is this what Christ meant about Christianity?
In 1997, Father Maciel called me, and he assigned me to work in the Vatican. They had asked Father Maciel for a legionary, and this legionary should speak German.
The Vatican is governed by the Pope through 9 congregations. These major offices are led by cardinals to foster unity with local churches across the globe. Kunze was now working for the Congregation for Clergy, which dealt with the rights and responsibilities of priests throughout the church.
I began to work on a daily basis as an official, addetto de secretaria de segunda clase. It was very intense because of what the church has been going through. Cases of priests abusing had been streaming into the Vatican. I actually saw a case or two appear on my own desk. And I thought to myself, how is the church going to resolve this? What will happen to these victims? How should the church handle the priests? Are the bishops following church law? And I didn't know the answers. Many times at night, I had a hard time sleeping. At home, when I was in the Legionary house, all of our correspondence was screened. I know that my emails were screened, and there was restricted access to the internet. He was so afraid that he would lose control of us. Now, when I was working in the Vatican, I had my own internet access. And one day I was interested, and I actually saw an article that spelled out all of the accusations against Father Maciel. I read about Juan Vaca, Jose Barba, Arturo Jurado, and I was dumbfounded. These accusations, we were told, were all false, that they were part of a conspiracy formed in the 40s and 50s, and that if we ever heard anything about this, if someone would send us an article in the newspaper or on the internet, that we weren't allowed to read that.
Despite his job inside the Vatican, Father Kunze could not share with other legionaries what he knew about Maciel because of the special vow each of them took never to criticize the founder. But Maciel had allies. William Bennett, the former drug czar, now a CNN commentator, was a big Legion booster. Father Richard John Newhouse, a prominent writer, went so far as to call the charges scurrilous. And in Carlos Slim of Mexico, reported to be the richest man in the world, Maciel had a steadfast supporter. Monsignor Scicluna left Mexico with testimony from 30 men. Some witnesses said Maciel had sex with 2 boys at once.
The new pope, formerly known as Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, meets the crowd for the first time.
The investigator's report would eventually go to his old boss. But before Scicluna was done, the case took a strange turn.
In May 2005, about a month after I had given my deposition to Monsignor Scicluna, Cardinal Sodano released a statement about there being no investigation into the Reverend Maciel. We knew that it hadn't ended. There were people flying to Rome at that very same time to continue to be interviewed by Monsignor Scicluna.
A Legion spokesman said that Maciel had been exonerated, which was not true. The Vatican press office said the investigation was over, which was not true either.
What would happen if Condoleezza Rice, the Secretary of State of the United States, were to intervene with the Attorney General to get him to stop an investigation into a known pedophile? Surely she would lose her job. So now we're totally bewildered.
At this point, a new figure emerged. Pope Benedict had to choose someone to fill the office he had left. he turned to Archbishop William Levada of San Francisco. Levada was not a renowned theologian, but he had seen the crisis up close. His archdiocese was embroiled in lawsuits involving 70 clerics going back many years. Victims wanted the secret files of those priests made public.
Before 2002, had any files maintained by the Archdiocese ever been made available to any law enforcement agency investigating suspected sexual abuse by clergy?
I don't recall any.
I was molested at Salesian High School in '69 and '70, and the priest who molested me is denying it. His church is backing him up, and Bishop Levada is aware of it. The one who molested me is in ministry right now, a block away from here, right under Levada's nose, and they said, I'm lying.
There will always be some people who are not happy with one thing or another, but I think on the whole, I can leave San Francisco with a good conscience.
Invested as a cardinal, Levada went to work at the Palace of the Holy Office. The Maciel case was now his responsibility.
We have returned to Rome once again, filled with questions, seeking justice. It has been 1 year since Monsignor Scicluna took our testimonies in Mexico. 1 year since Joseph Ratzinger is Pope. I wrote to Monsignor Scicluna asking to meet with him and his new superior, Cardinal Levada.
What was the delay? Simply, they delay for 6 hours.
We stayed for 9 hours at the airport.
Monsignore Scicluna è stato trasferito. Verso le 8 è possibile per lei. Ebbene, grazie tantissime. That Scicluna probably has a meeting this morning and he might be out around, that I should call him at 1.
No, there's no answer.
Glenn Favreau, a young ex-legionary from America, hoped to give testimony about inner workings of the Legion.
The last thing that I heard was that they're just deciding what to do. But this priest told me that 20 ex-legionary priests were called to that to testify, and he himself testified. And he also said that when he talked to Scicluna, he talked for a while, and he said, Monsignor, it seems like you heard all of this before, like you know what I'm saying. And he said, we just need to hear it over and over.
Yes.
Favreau was assisting Paul Lennon with the Regain Support Network.
In the early 1990s, Father Maciel had gotten the idea of sending out brothers, specially chosen brothers, to befriend seminarians in a North American college. And we were to befriend them to convince them to join the Regnum Christi. Basically, reports were written, very detailed reports about our progress with each seminarian and potential that we saw in each one of them. These were men who were one day going to be high officials in their dioceses or bishops, and Father Maciel wanted to guarantee that the Legion would be welcome in those dioceses in the future.
One of the seminarians under scrutiny by the legionaries was the son of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
I felt very bad. I felt that I had used these young men. I wanted to apologize to them, to tell them how sorry I was.
Professor Barba received a message from Scicluna and Cardinal Levada. There would be no further meetings. By now, Barba knew that at least 50 witnesses had testified about Maciel and many other victims. Hoping for a glimpse of the Pope, Barba and Jurado went to the Stations of the Cross. They found themselves surrounded by young legionaries.
Jesus is condemned to death. Adoramus te Christe et benedicimus Tibi.
I visited Elizabeth in Poland in April to celebrate her 40th birthday. And I told her that Pope Benedict was going to lower the boom. And she said, "Oh, Mother, that's never going to happen."
Iudem Spiritu sanctificare ingeris et corpus et sanguis fiat. Fili tui Domini.
1 month after Easter, a Vatican communique announced the end of the Maciel case.
Welcome to the Religion Report. This week, Father Maciel has been banished from public ministry. We haven't been told what he's been found guilty of, so we don't know whether the punishment fits the crime. Does this decision...
The Vatican had turned Maciel's crimes into sins. Maciel, in a statement, accepted his new cross with tranquility of conscience. The Vatican legal system exposed its deepest flaw by erasing any reference to the victims from the decision.
The communique that came down was so unclear, so soft, so kind. And what I really want is for the Pope to come out and say, this man has been found guilty of pedophilia. I think that Elizabeth's been brainwashed. She said, "Mother, someday Father Maciel, who is a saint, will be canonized, and you'll be sorry for what you said." I just want my daughter back.
The Vatican praised the Legionaries of Christ and Regnum Christi. But several bishops have banned Maciel's movement from their dioceses. One bishop called the Legion and Regnum Christi a parallel church. Maciel's movement does not accept his guilt. The Legion and Regnum Christi roll on, with plans for 2 universities in America, 3 U.S. seminaries for teenage boys already operating, and a campaign that targets young people.
The Youth and Family Encounter is where you catch the spirit of Regnum Christi.
Christ wants to use you to establish Regnum Christi in the 3rd millennium.
It's probably the most visible manifestation of the mission that Nostro Padre has always envisioned for it.
If you're just learning about Regnum Christi, the 2007 Youth and Family Encounter is coming to the beautiful Georgia World Congress Center July 20th.
And government can't create wholesome family life. Wholesome family life has to be created by seeing people in this gathering be inspired by what they've learned over this weekend to continue to do their works in their own communities. I want you to envision what the world would look like.
Pope Benedict XVI has ordered the Legion to halt the secret vows. The Legion, meanwhile, sued the Regained Support Network and Paul Lennon, accusing them of a conspiracy to harm the ministry of the Legionaries. On January 30th, 2008, Father Maciel died. He was buried in a modest ceremony in his family tomb in Mexico. The Legionaries' website said that he went to heaven.
I always wanted to know where sickness ends and evil starts.